Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. There's been a lot of good stuff on the show lately. Well, let's fix that, shall we? Oh, Youngblood, I will never be rid of you. Even now, today's review is only spotlighting the last piece of material from your original run. And there are so many other runs in the future, plus Team Youngblood, because why keep the crap contained to one book, am I right? Hey, do you like reading stuff in order? Well, you're a chump, because issue number 0 got released between issues 3 and 4, making senses for people from the previous generation of heroes, damn it. Now, to be fair, there are plenty of reasons why a number 0 issue can be released later. It's not a practice to even have a 0th issue unless there's some special gimmick. Hell, I've complained about it in the Blue Beetle retrospective, but at least they had a little non-event in the New 52 that had every book doing a 0th issue there to help explain it. But here, just arbitrarily shoving issue 0 in between a few early issues? It's not even like it's a flashback, it's just the events that happened before issue 1. Why did this have to be like this? Why not have it be an annual issue with a framing device, or a backup story told over the course of several issues? But hey, at least we'll finally get some much-needed character development and backstory to the team that helps explain some of the events of the first 10 issues, right? Again, that's chump talk right there. We're gonna have an unrelated backstory that contributes nothing to the book as it existed. I suppose it could have been meant to be a storyline explored down the line, but somehow I doubt it. Youngblood drops plot points so many times you'd think its hands were coated in grease. And let's face it, even if it was meant to be that, it's not like the series is that great with the plot threads it does stick to. But hey, let's just dig into Youngblood number 0 and see if it's any better than the rest of the series.
Youngblood! Youngblood! Youngblood!
The cover is terrible. A wraparound extending to the back cover that just features a bunch of Youngblood members. Hell, it's actually worse if you ignore the wraparound aspect, because suddenly it's just 4 guys haphazardly standing on a rooftop and frowning. But hey, at least this angle let Rob avoid drawing feet a bit longer. The only one doing anything different is Die Hard, whose pose is, well... damn it, Die Hard's malfunctioning again and he's stuck in a T-pose! I once caught a fish this big. We open at the White House in 1988, where the president is being informed that Iraqi forces appear to be preparing to invade Kuwait. I do wonder if this is a case of alternate history as a result of superpowered beings existing in this world, or if Liefeld just forgot what year the Gulf War started. In any event, the president, who doesn't appear to be Reagan or Bush, but this brown-haired guy, is informed of his options for protecting the border. Namely that the only one he seems to have is to send in Youngblood. We have a Youngblood unit standing by. Which squad are you referring to? Colonel Stones, sir. You mean... Yes, sir. Stones Studs. We really should not have let them pick their own squad names. They're a relatively new squad with some potential personality conflicts, but I believe Colonel Stone's no-nonsense approach should be effective for our purposes, sir. So far, he's only maimed 3 of his teammates that he didn't get along with. Big step up from the last commander. What of the other Youngblood units? They're all presently engaged in other international or domestic operations. I mean, those McDonald's groundbreaking ceremonies aren't gonna happen on their own, sir. The word is given. Send them in. Send in the Michael Bay helicopters at sunset shots. Hope you like two-page spreads you have to turn on their sides in order to read the comic, guys, because this one's got a few of them. Starting with this shot of Youngblood dropping out of the sky. The sad thing is that in better hands, this could have actually worked. A low-angle shot conveying just how far they're falling from the sky. But then we wouldn't have had Colonel Stone's arms so desperately trying to escape his body by pulling themselves out of his back. They are America's elite strike force, genetically enhanced to combat evil in all its forms. With such exciting, genetically enhanced forces for good like Crotch Thrust Dude, who might be a robot, and Captain, we're blackmailing him to work for us. And don't forget, barely a character lady. The best of the best, as Hussein and his army are about to find out. Want you to keep that best of the best phrase in mind as we continue with this comic. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure Hussein and his army are going to be more laughing their heads off because Colonel Stone here has Sailor Moon-sized pigtails. Aside from Liefeld, the other artist credited in the issue is Dan Fraga. His work at Liefeld's studio was some of his earliest work, and it shows here. Very stiff and odd poses, from this one soldier breaking his spine to the guy, presumably, punching him with his arms that lack elbow joints. But I checked out some of his more recent work and, yeah, much improvement over the last 25 years. Kudos. Anyway, the book does actually introduce us to the Youngblood members here. Riptide, Mistress of Moisture, can command water in all its forms. Yes, even the gross forms. Looks like we've made a big splash, boys. In issue 10 of this comic, Chapel gratuitously and graphically committed suicide because an evil agency infected him with AIDS, and he thought that when he died, he'd come back with demonic powers. You are not a stupid puns book, Youngblood. Chapel, cold-blooded killer for hire, really likes weapons that look like pricing guns. Colonel Stone, aka Battlestone, does not get a narrative caption explaining who he is, even though this issue is about him. Anyway, he says it's time to move on, but another colonel, Boggs, says that they can't move on just yet, since the opposing army is bound to have supply tunnels underneath them in this area that they need to clear out. Battlestone says the tunnels are usually booby-trapped and they need to go, but Boggs is having none of it. I understand that the powers that be gave you the final word on this one, but you'll either have to arrest me or put me to sleep to stop me from taking a peek. Nothing says best of the best like disregarding orders and loudly announcing your intention to disobey said orders and walk headfirst into a booby-trapped area. Another guy goes with Boggs. How do they even know where these tunnels are and how to get into them? And they climb down into one of the tunnels. And they soon run into a booby trap that explodes said tunnels. You know, it's gotta be hell for the Iraqi soldiers wanting to get supplies out of here when they might accidentally set off a heavily explosive booby trap at any moment. One dude who forgot his morning coffee and all that ammunition goes boom. One soldier named Gamble, who for some reason has a stupid transparent visor in front of his face, wants to go back for the two, but Battlestone tells him to stay put, especially because of the further risk to lives. In addition, he had warned them not to go in. However, Gamble accuses Battlestone of letting them walk into the trap just because of Boggs' insubordination. You didn't like your authority being challenged, so you figured he deserved it! Bye-bye Boggs, bye-bye problem. What? That's ridiculous. Tell you what, if you want to challenge my authority, why don't you step into that tunnel over there? Battlestone punches Gamble, shattering his stupid Google Glass prototype. That'll be enough out of you, Gamble. That really jaundices my face. Chapel, the cold-blooded killer, displays a surprising amount of empathy by pointing out that what Bloodstone just did was wrong. Gamble isn't a metahuman like them, and thus his punches are more dangerous. A fact that is made perfectly clear by the fact that that punch just killed Gamble. See, if I really wanted to kill Boggs for insubordination, all I would have had to do was punch him to death. Yeah, that shut you up pretty quick, didn't it? Die Hard, angered by this murder, forces the page to go into a two-page spread you have to turn on its side. Just beautiful use of page real estate here. You idiot! When are you going to learn? This is one time too many! It was okay when you murdered the last 6 non-power people, but this one is too far! There's some weird coloring going on here. Maybe it's just the scans or how old the book is, but the pages drawn by Dan Fraga just have a weird, different color tone to them than the ones by Liefeld. The Fraga pages feel more like a Neil Adams Now comic, a bit blurry with softened tones, while the Liefeld stuff is your average early Image look, with very bright and harsh colors. Color design and separations were done by different people, Brian Murray and Digital Chameleon, so it's possible that that's the cause of it here, one working on Liefeld's bits and the other on Fraga's, but it just makes them feel like we have two different books with the same characters in them. Anyway, Battlestone is pissed. First Boggs and Rains, then Lieutenant Gamble. I've had enough out of all of you. In the name of the moon, I will punish you. I've been doing this job long before you were created. Well, now you're doing it badly. Youngblood has a weird employee evaluation system. Die Hard knocks him down and Chapel steps in, saying that Die Hard's stepping out of line now, but he's not letting Battlestone get away with this either. He can either surrender with his dignity intact, or have Die Hard forcefully restrain him. When did anyone in this series have dignity to begin with? The mission is scrapped, and they head off in helicopters to another unnecessary 2-page spread turned on its side, featuring Battlestone in massive gold chains and arm restraints, floating in the vacuum of space. Yeah, it's just a crappy background of paint splatters, but every time I look at this, I expect Battlestone to start talking like this.
Know then that it is the year 10,191.
Battlestone and his massive amount of teeth are being put on trial for his actions, while he slowly turns into a demon. Like, seriously, check out the red eye and the demonic word balloon. Also, there's a big skull on his forehead.
Are we the baddies?
The tribunal elects to not imprison or court-martial him due to his service record to date, but because of the loss of life, he's getting stripped of his status with the government and the Youngblood Project. They also imply that they're gonna kill him to keep him quiet. We don't want to make any waves. This is, after all, an election year. Oh, early 90s naivete about what horrible things people would or wouldn't support. Oh God, please make it stop. Battlestone blames the untested operatives for what happened in Kuwait, but the shadowy tribunal blames him for his lack of exercising authority. As for the men, Boggs and Gamble, they were clones. We have no doubt we can replace them the same way we did you, Colonel. We think people will really like the Scarlet Battlestone. I feel like this clones thing should have been information we had previously, or had any kind of significance or relevance before this point. Oh, but then we learn that Battlestone is, in fact, a zombie. Yep, evil shadowy government organization had brought him back to life, a fact that he is well aware of. Oh, well, clearly I have the wrong comic here then. This is Bloodstrike #0, not Youngblood #0. Any second now, Bloodgun is gonna show up. Just seriously, is that the actual purpose of this 0th issue? To be a backdoor pilot to another of Liefeld's teams? Hell, Battlestone would go on to form another Liefeld team, Brigade, which is just bizarre because clearly it should have been called Blood Brigade. Battlestone condemns them for the cloning and resurrection of the dead, cursing his own existence as part of that. But despite him supposedly being a hero, his dialogue indicates that he has aspirations for world domination. I don't know if that ever plays out, but we don't have time for that anyway, because we cut to 14 months later as Shaft assumes command of Youngblood. Shaft is uncomfortable with having to wear a costume as part of his new duties on the team, but apparently it's a public image thing. So the entire premise of Youngblood was about how superheroes would be treated like celebrities if this was the real world, but this book says that the heroes are just artificially created by the government for their covert military operations. I think the real issue with Liefeld drawing feet is that he didn't know how to make them fit proportionally with the rest of the over-muscled bodies. On their own here, they look okay, but so much tinier than the rest of their forms. These characters might as well be walking on stumps. Anyway, Shaft is introduced to the rest of the home team of Youngblood, giving us a slightly better introduction to these characters than we got in the actual first issue, as well as another character who, well, showed up at the end of Youngblood #10 in a completely different costume named Link. Here, he's just some dude in brown who has psychic powers and might as well just be one of the other 100 or so Youngblood members introduced over the series run. The best part is that according to the brief research I did, he apparently just disappeared and then reappeared in issue 10 for reasons that were never explained. I feel like as I continue to review Youngblood issues, the, I don't know, explanation of what happened to characters is going to be a recurring motif. And so our comic ends with a photographer arriving to take some promotional shots for the team. If you could all get together and give me your best grimaces, I'd appreciate it. Magazines love it when you look boring and grumpy. Another instruction the photographer apparently gave off screen was, make sure you're all squinting really hard. The beginning. Yes, most comics have their beginnings between issues 3 and 4. This comic sucks. It feels incredibly short, but that's mostly because of how much space is wasted with 2-page spreads you need to turn on their side. Pages 14 to 21 all need to be turned on their side, and despite some of them having multiple panels and a layout that would work just fine on a single page, or in the case of Battlestone standing in space, just a panel taking up a good portion of a page with other panels on it, they're just not filled with very interesting details. They're loaded down with exposition that doesn't actually contribute anything to the story. The artwork is bad, but I'll give the Fraga pages some credit in that they at least have a better flow than the Liefeld pages, which are really just a few panels of people posing. No one feels like they're moving in his panels. The Fraga ones, while having less than stellar artwork in regards to character models, at least seems to understand how sequential art is supposed to operate, and I can follow what's going on. The story provides some backstory to events that transpired prior to the first issue, but it doesn't inform on the book or give new information and details about stuff that happened in the first 10 issues of its life. Nope, just here's what happened one time, and it might lead into some other books I create, but not the one you bought. Next time, we travel to a different attempt at creating a new original superhero team that failed in a completely different way. As for the men, Boggs and Gamble, they were clones. Wait, no, I'm just receiving word that they're not clones, but actually robot duplicates from another dimension that, through convoluted plot details, turned human.